Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Ashton, and this is No Wasted Time, the show where I interview top leaders in the industry who took their ideas and made them a reality. If you're looking to make an impact and make an investment of your time, this is the place to be. This is the show for you, and today I'll be talking to CJ Terrel, speaker, event manager, traveler, and marketeer. So this is the man, and his programs will take your business to the next level. So if you're in business, you need to watch this and listen to this show. Thank you so much for joining us, CJ. You're awesome.
Absolutely. Hey, my pleasure, and thanks for inviting me here, Ashton.
Absolutely. Is there anything that I might have forgotten about you, CJ? Because I know you have a lot of stuff going on in your life that you want to inform the viewers and listeners about.
Certainly. So, great intro to start with. I'd say you covered the bases pretty well. One thing, just kind of remember, so what I am kind of gearing towards in my life is the area of growth marketing. It's, for those who don't know, it's the area of understanding everything from the topmost level, everything from the customer journey, product lifecycle innovation, the 5 different phases of that, as many of us may be familiar with. It's really digging deep and understanding that from a comprehensive view, from the top to the bottom, including content creation, et cetera. All that funnels back into growth marketing. And so that's kind of what I do. How I do it is through various different types of projects.
Your special sauce.
My special
that
sauce.
People need to sign up for.
Absolutely.
Got it. Well, that's awesome. So here on the show, I am huge on having people on the show that have mentors or had mentors in their life. And sometimes I have people that haven't had any mentors in their life at all. But I wanted to kind of get your perspective. What's your perspective on having mentors on your success? And have you had any mentors that have made an impact in your life?
Having mentors for me is crucial and has been a big part of my life, actually, to date. So with various consulting arrangements I've worked in, various capacities in the work world, so to say, I have always, almost always, actually gotten really good exposure to mentors. I think it's been just through my work ethic. I'm one of the hardest working people in my circle. And then also just knowing how to ask the right questions and when, and finding a win-win for those types of people who are my superior, who happen to be the CEO of a company I'm working with or some sort of executive within that. I've had probably around, out of the companies I've worked with, probably around 12, maybe 13 mentors who've each been CEOs or VPs of companies. Anywhere from the startup realm of 2 people all the way up to the larger companies of around 800 people. And that's just been amazing for me. They've been everywhere from executives within the hardware space and software space to venture investing, venture building, you name it. Product designers, product builders, people that have been in the industry for 30 years. And so what this is over the course of probably about a decade. And so I'm in my 20s right now, but I've gotten exposure to really good quality mentorship from an early age, even actually since 16 or 17 years old. And I think it's just kind of what I mentioned in terms of work ethic, knowing what questions to ask and who to go to and how to find a win-win out of that. So yes, mentorship is critical. I'm a product of that, I'd say, based on what they've shared with me, and I've optimized my own life because of it.
That's really amazing. And you said the right questions to ask and knowing the right people. So in your mind, what are some of the right questions to ask for people that may be looking for a mentor?
It's always learn more about them and what interests them. I take that, I don't include it as one of my mentors, but it's a fantastic book to read. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People. Many people may be familiar with that one. It's been out for, I think, 70 or 80 years. And there's a reason, too. It's a great book. One of the key things I took away from that book is really to talk about what interests people, get to know them. It's not as much about you when you're getting to know them, especially since their time is already limited, right? The more you learn about them, the more they're going to make themselves accessible to you, most likely. Of course, there are always going to be circumstances where they may just be really too busy for pretty much anyone, maybe even including their family, right? But to maximize those opportunities, right, learn about them. And then once you learn about them, think if it's a hobby, if it's a passion, sometimes it's both, right? Learn about ways you can add value to that. And that may be, for example, just one example may be golfing, right? Maybe they really enjoy golfing, and maybe their birthday's coming up. Maybe you treat them to a free round of golf, right? And they can take their buddies on that. And then, of course, their buddies will ask, thanks for inviting us out. How'd you get this, right? Or why'd you invite us out today? Or something like that. They're going to say, this person I work with, or this youngster, or someone, could be your same age, doesn't matter, right? It could be older. The age isn't the factor. It's the fact that you showed some sign of generosity, and now you're in their sphere of influence. And whether you try to get something out of that or not is up to you. I think it's just good to pay it forward. And so I've done that through a number of ways. A lean way I do it is just sharing articles, I think, for those that I know really enjoy reading, something that's very relevant to them, something that they can really learn from. I'll give you a real world example, something I did for one of my mentors, actually. He's a director, actually, he's a VP of marketing for a toy company that sells across America. And just this past week, I sent him over a relevant video for a potential partnership he could have. It's an influencer on YouTube. Hadn't known if he'd heard about it before, but it was directly in line with the type. They were looking for market exposure on LinkedIn. He posted about it. I knew about this channel. I passed on a link to him. Very simple, right? It took me probably no more than 30 seconds, but it's a way to rekindle a relationship, spark any engagement, and even if he'd already heard about it, he knows that I'm thinking about him. And so simple things like this pay dividends over time in terms of social clout, in terms of respect, and potentially even some business over time too. So those are my thoughts on mentorship.
Perfect. That's the best thoughts I can possibly get out of mentorship. I really love the fact that you say to get to a mentor, you don't ask them directly. You just add value to them, and then from there, they are inclined, almost in a sense, to want to help you succeed in whatever you need your help in.
Yes.
And that's perfect. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Sure thing.
So when it comes to your success, how much do you attribute it to personal growth and development? And what are your thoughts on personal growth? Because I think a lot of people are kind of still on the fence about self-help. Like if you're getting self-help, there's something wrong with you.
Not at all.
What's your thoughts on it?
So I have this simple 3-word phrase that I kind of use at the back of my mind. Take it for what it's worth. It helps me at least. And so it's basically success follows mastery. Mastery of your craft. Mastery of social clout. Mastery of yourself. Mastery of, I say yourself, your habits, your life, right? Have I fully optimized my life? No, right? As anyone, except for maybe Tony Robbins, he might be the only person, out there, one of the very few. But I'd say I do pretty darn good, or pretty darn well. And I've done that basically by looking at my inner self. Ashton, what was the word you used? Maybe self-help isn't maybe as useful for some people, or
they say that if you're going through self-help, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, for whoever said that, I'm sure they had their solid reasoning in doing that. I can say from my experience, self-help is the only way I've gotten to this point. It's the thing where, if you think about it, self-help, there's a few different ways you can define it, and maybe one of those ways doesn't collide as well with maybe another way of defining it. So maybe that's the breakage point of why maybe it seems odd to get self-help. Totally understand. But how I define self-help is just understanding, okay, what can I do better? And what maybe should I phase out of my life so I can do that other thing even better? And then once I get super good at that, again, successful is mastery, right? What can I go into adjacent areas? So for example, if I love listening to music, can I then also pick up an instrument? Or can I sing? And if I can't sing well, I'm guessing this instrument's probably going to be a better chance of me succeeding. So things like that. And for whatever it is you want to do, self-development, people buy into you at the end of the day. You may be really good at what you do, but if something doesn't jive with them, right? And actually, I'm sure you've seen this, with people you've talked to in life as well, right? If you're as good as what you do, but you also have that competitive edge in terms of being able to relate to them and talk with them and sit down and just kind of, I mean, have a good conversation with them. That sort of stuff really goes far and beyond the people who can simply do their job well at whatever they're doing, whether it be a business they're running or a job, inside of a corporation, et cetera. So self-development, I think, is the only thing, that catalyst that gets you to that point of becoming better at what you do, and then other people also seeing that as an outward reflection when they're looking at you.
That's perfect. I like what. Okay, so I like a lot of what you're saying, which is great. And when you were talking about personal development, I can't remember the saying that you had because I got sidetracked. Maybe I'll think of it later. But a lot of personal development. I remember it was something along the lines of if you're not developing yourself, you're not growing, and if you're not growing, you're heading in the wrong direction.
Great.
And
yeah.
It was something along those lines, and so just wanted to say that was perfect. You said that you utilize self-development in a sense to be able to network with other people. Would you say that the statement, it's not about who you know, but what you know, do you agree with that statement, or do you more agree with it's about who you know, not what you know, if that makes sense?
It does, and I've been asked this question a number of times. And I'll explain why after I answer your question. I believe it's both, undoubtedly both. It's not one or the other, because imagine, let's take a short scenario. If let's say it's only about what you know, right? If what you know, if you're very capable of doing something, it kind of follows from what I mentioned before, is very capable of doing something. That's one thing, right? You can do it, but how many people will follow you, right? There's only so many places you can go. You can be probably the best, for example, best data scientist or best, event manager or best, water bottle maker or something like that, right? You can be the best at what you do.
Yeah.
But if people aren't willing to listen to you, you're never going to become an executive, right? If you don't know who to talk to in terms of logistics, manufacturing, or whatever profession you're in, whatever it is, if you don't know who to talk to and when to talk to them and how to talk to them, right? That's part of the other factors than who you know, but it's also how you manage those relationships. The two go together, because get great at what you do first. Once you get that down, start building up those relationships, because that's where you're then going to start to elevate your own career to the next level, because all of a sudden you'll have people that can follow you. And those are, I believe, the two factors in terms of elevating your own success beyond only becoming great at what you do, but great at helping others do what they do too.
Gotcha. So knowing your craft, but once again, you need to know people to somehow figure out how to apply what you know.
Yes.
In a sense.
Yeah. And
so it's a back and forth.
Yes. And understanding how to teach them and how to influence them.
Gotcha.
Yep.
You know what? I'll take that. I'll take that.
All right. Hey, take it as you will.
When it comes to, this is a question that I didn't put on to anything, so don't be surprised by this one whatsoever. I'm sorry. But
it's hard to surprise me nowadays. I've been through so many. So bring it on. Bring it on.
So I've noticed that there's a pattern with successful people. Typically successful people, one, know what they want, and then two, understand their philosophies and their non-negotiables. What are some of your philosophies that you like to implement into your business or into your personal life? And, and then what are your non-negotiables?
Sure. Great question, by the way. I may think of this as almost like a foundation. So if you're building a house, first thing's the concrete, right? And the rebar and digging out the dirt and things like that, right? For me, what that is in architectural, reference would be the value system. Understanding the values. So in other words, are we going to respect people? Is that going to be an emphasis over adding value, right? Which one will take precedence? Will they both be equal, right? What are the values that we have? Those values are basically what everything else is built on. So that's where I'd start. And remind me, the second part of the question was what?
What are some of your personal values that you utilize into your business? And then how do you utilize those things into your business? How do you incorporate them in?
Absolutely. So I actually created an acronym for this. And so I'll go a bit nerdy for a sec, and then I'll explain why. But just I want to give context behind this. There's an idea I came up with about probably 6 years ago, and I call it the cell values, CEL, not CELL. And so the reason why, so as we kind of all know, we're made of atoms and bits and matter and particles and things like that. And we happen to manifest into what is us, right? We have about 37 trillion or something like that atoms throughout our bodies. So I figured, all right, well, if we want to understand who we are, we kind of understand what this stuff is that makes us who we are. And so it tends to come down to cells, right? And, gene networks and all kind of stuff too. Totally get it, right? I simply thought the cell acronym might be more effective because CEL, what I then effectuated it into, is number one for C, stands for commit. Number two, E stands for execute. So commit and execute. And then third is lead for L. So commit, execute, and lead. The reason why I came up with that idea, and also in that sequential order, is first you have to, when you commit, you're not going to be wavering. You know what you want to do and what you don't want to do. And that way, at least you have a path forward. Once you kind of have that path, think of it like a riverbed, right? You have to dig an area for the river to even be in the first place. You can't create a mountain and expect the river to flow. It's going to flow only into the valley, but not into a bed of water. And so when you commit, you know what you're going to do. The execution is a matter of where you're starting to put in the water into that riverbed. And so now all of a sudden it has a path, but it also has a substance behind it of what you're going to be doing. And now all of a sudden the river needs to go somewhere. It's not, maybe it's going to lead into a mountain, maybe it's going to lead into an ocean, a lake, etc. And so the leadership part is just understanding where things are going to be going, the vision aspect. And so for me, it's the cell philosophy. It's commit, execute, and lead. Build the river, put in the water, and show the direction. And that same idea can be applied, I think, in pretty much any sort of business that I work in. And those way help build businesses through my growth marketing activities.
That's awesome. I love how you have an acronym to it, and it helps, obviously yourself and everybody else that you're working with understand that, yep, when I'm working with CJ, I know I'm getting commitment, I'm getting execution, I'm getting leadership. So
absolutely.
That's awesome. That's really good.
Simplicity is great. It helps people get on the same page. And I think it makes more cohesion at the end of the day too.
Yes. So thank you for sharing that with the the viewers and the people that are listening right now. To get back onto the whole personal development realm, what I want to talk about is some of the struggles that you currently went through on your personal development journey. What have you overcome, and how did you overcome them?
Great question, and this is another one I actually like to answer, even if people don't ask me. So I'm glad you asked me, actually. So I'll first explain. I'll say why it's important to me, because I think, actually, I know, because I've talked to, as you have as well, Ashton. We've talked to a lot of people in our lives, and we found that everyone has something in their life that they want to improve. Whether it be a lot, a little, etc., but there's something. And so for me, when I was growing up, that something just happened to be that, I was born into, unlike a lot of families, I was born as an only child. And so I was trying to understand how to kind of communicate more so with other kids my age, because when you have a brother or sister, or however the family dynamics are, you tend to be kind of growing up more social. You learn how to, I'll admit, you learn how to share faster, right? You learn how to socialize and go to events, and they tell you about what it's like growing up and going into the teenage years and the adult years and all that kind of stuff. And so that was something I kind of had to learn myself. It was a struggle. That was actually a genuine struggle. And the reason why I do like to share something like that, because I'll tell you, quite honestly, even up until high school, college was different. I finally became really out there, but it took a while. Even in high school, I was, decently antisocial, but I'll tell you what I made up for that. What I lacked in that department, I made up in excelling in other areas. So whether it be academics and music, sports, etc. But the point, what I'm trying to make is the fact that it was a challenge for me in one area. So I re-diverted that energy into other areas of my life to do really well at that. And so I was on a leading soccer team for high school in our area. Music, oh my gosh, that's a conversation in and of itself. Short of it, I went on 3 international tours by 17 years old. I traveled across the United States. I've played for opening concerts to Kenny Loggins and Smokey Robinson. I've played in recording studios in Japan, China, and other parts of the world. And at Disneyland for a couple of years. I mean, music has been a massive influence in my life. And so what I'm trying to emphasize is that this sort of stuff, also academics, like I just work my butt off to get the good grades. I didn't get perfect grades, but I worked my hardest that I could personally do. The reason why I'm sharing this is because all that sort of stuff was enabled by the fact that I wasn't really good at that stuff yet. So I wanted to redivert my energy and at least do the best I could in the other areas that I know I could do. And I knew that this other part, the socialization part, just kind of getting to know people, getting out there, connecting, that would come. But it would come with time. And so I was patient. And while I was beefing up these skills, again, success follows mastery, right? The idea is that I was watching how people interacted. I was watching how people socialized. I was watching how people got better. I did that through these groups as well. That was part of through music, sports, and academics. But it was really understanding how to make small talk, how to meet new people, right? How to go to events and be the life of the party without, first time there sort of thing, right? How to make other people the life of the party. That's a cool one. That's a really cool one. And so the reason for me telling you all this is because that's why I love growth marketing, is because it allowed me an entry point into understanding how people tick, how people think, what they do. Marketing, growth marketing for me is really understanding how to make people better at who they are. It's augmenting their capabilities. You give them glasses, how can they become better with their glasses? You give them coffee, how can they do better at their job, right? You give them a candle, what type of mood can they set for the right situation, right? And these sorts of things all coincided with the socialization aspect. And this is stuff, again, I was patient enough, listened hard enough, and crafted into a profession where I happened to, be able to learn how to do that. And so being an only child allowed me to propel into that later in life, but with more vigor, I think, than a lot of other people around me. And that's why I love what I do. That's why I love helping other people do what I do too, because of those reasons.
One thing that you kept pointing out was the fact that you kept watching people. And I think one of the big things that people start to forget is that no matter what you sell, no matter if it's pain medication or a medical device or you're just selling your service or whatever it is, you are literally selling to another human being. Yes. You're not talking to a computer. And one of the big things is that people fail to realize that. And so their people skills, because they're behind their phone all the time, dwindles. And so they can't have those conversations and they can't, grow themselves. They can't grow within their company because they don't have the necessary skills that people want, like critical thinking, making a decision, like having an answer for whatever questions they have. If you don't have the answer, they'll just go to Google and you have no purpose whatsoever. And so I like what you said. You have to understand people if you want to be successful in any business that you venture into.
Absolutely. Any business, any part of life, but especially within business. That's where the money comes from. Money comes from, you can have short-term money and long-term money, right? The short-term stuff, it can work, but the long-term stuff comes from relationships and understanding how to work with people. That's the only way I've found it to work really well, is understanding how to work with people. It's hard to see it when you're answering email. It's hard to see it when you're on a phone because literally you cannot see it if you're on a phone. But and I totally get it, right? I'm behind a computer a number of hours per day, as like most of us are, right? Whether it be a mobile computer on the go or whether it be a physical computer. But the idea is that it's hard to relate to those people. Video chats help like these. I fully support these types because you kind of get to know the person better, I think a lot better. And there's ways in which you can get past that. I think what I found to kind of get past that idea of separating from humanity when you're in front of these tech all the time, separation devices, as I sometimes call them.
Not cell phones, separation devices.
Exactly.
Separation phones. Got it.
It's thinking what the other person wants. And it goes back to one of the first things I mentioned in this interview is find their interest, right? Learn what it is. Once you get that, you can start to empathize. And all of a sudden that barrier, that screen starts to disappear and you start to feel the humans, the person's passions and interests behind the screen. And you know how to write to that accordingly.
That's awesome. I think we take for granted a lot of the things that we have, especially here. Obviously, we have our phones. We got the ability to communicate with people. I think you're 8 hours away from me, but I mean, the fact of the matter is we take a lot of stuff for granted. I want to bring a little. I want to bring people back home. What's one thing that you're thankful for that the viewers and the people listening right now should be more cognizant of?
I am thankful for kind people who are around me. And I hope that doesn't come off as cliche, because that's really what I do cherish. It's the kind people in my life who I can pick up a call with, go grab a coffee with. They can listen. If I'm having a down day, I think I'm pretty good at what I do. I've been doing it long enough. Hopefully I'm pretty good at what I do, right?
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where there's still days where, I'm doubting myself, right? Or I'm doubting something in, the economy or something in whatever, right? I just need to talk to someone. It's the kind people that help pick me up. It's also the kind people that help bring me to the next level. It's the kind people who are willing to listen to me. And it's the kind people who are willing to time for me to talk to them. And so it's those people that are empathetic, the kind people that are also they have patience, and the kind people that present opportunity when the time is right. And those are the people I respect the most, and that's what I'm most grateful for in life. Because when you have enough kind people around you who are progressive, who work their asses off, right? Sorry, butts, right?
Yeah.
The idea is that, I don't know, it depends on the audience that we have here, but the idea is that, yeah, to ask, right? The idea is that the kind people that are progressive, that work hard, right? Those are going to be the people that really take it to the next level in life, and you can take them to the next level in life too. And it's really, you'll find so many more mutual win-wins. That is priceless. That's what I respect. That's what I cherish.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things that I'm trying to work on is utilizing my kind friends and the people that want to see me grow a lot more, and seeing how I can bring them value. But that takes time, and sometimes I just want to. I'm like, hey, dude, like, how can I add value to you, man? Like, instead of being like, oh, like, it's like, oh, I think he mentioned golf somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Like, I'll get golf things. You know what I mean? I'm very much the guy. I'll text you and be like, hey, yo, like, what do you need, bro? What can I do for you? How can I help you out? Like, let's skip the
awesome.
BS.
I love it.
That's so funny.
Awesome person.
So you're okay. So you have a lot of things going on with your business. Do you have any projects that you're currently working on? And if you do, what are some of the things that you're afraid of? What are some of the things that scare you? And how are you working through that fear?
Sure thing. So yes, I have. How do I summarize this in a way while keeping it somewhat confidential? Because the types of clients I work with, I want to respect what we're working on together. And some things are in the idea stage. Some things are, full-blown product lines, and we're revitalizing brands in the market. Just right now, so like I'm in touch with around half a dozen new potential companies that I'm going to probably be working with in some capacity over the next month or two. Various engagements everywhere, from product launches to rebranding to go-to-market management to business model design. One in particular over in Bangladesh, he is working on a pitch deck for a startup to enter the U.S. market. There's some others in international areas over in Europe as well. And, those are at least the types of things I'm working on right now that are coming into the pipeline. There are other projects as well I'm pretty excited about. And the thing that I really enjoy is that you get to hear so many cool stories. Like, as you're working on these things, you just get to learn so many things. That's what I love about it, is the diversity of the talent, diversity of the stories, the diversity of the personalities, right? You get to meet some very interesting people. I think one of your questions was maybe what intimidates me or what challenges me or something like that.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. What are you fearful of, and how are you overcoming them?
Yeah. What I'm fearful of. So I would say, in just clarify, Ashton, in regards to my projects, or you personally, what am I fearful of? Or
it could even be the fact that you're like, man, I have so many clients coming in right now that I don't know how to handle all of them, and I'm trying to figure out systems. You don't have to bring up specific names or anything.
Sure. That actually is something we're trying to understand right now, is how do I create a better system? Because right now I'm actually trying to make sense of the different clients that are coming in. Like, how do I more efficiently organize these? It's almost a little overwhelming. So it's a good situation to be in. It's just a matter, and I have some solutions I'm working on. But it's it's interesting coming together. And I started just doing. This more recent push that I did. For like these 6 new projects. These were ones, a couple of them I'd been nurturing for about 6 months or so. Actually, there's one in particular I've been nurturing for about 6 months, another one for a few months. Thing is, some of these take a long time, right? Some of them, it's a matter of 3 days worth of talking, and they're like, all right, let's do it. Game. And all right, cool. All right, I'm game before, right? So it depends on the situation. What I'm fearful of is just making sure that I can make my own time the most efficient as possible. So that way I'm maximizing not only my revenue, but also my profit. And so this way I can really start to scale my business. If it makes sense to start bringing on additional people, sure, but I want to understand why and when and how. And so I think the how I've kind of figured out, just a matter of when. And so that when is then answered by understanding this from a timeline, objective, obstacle standpoint, price, margin, and how the upward growth is looking. And so that stuff I'm taking into account. I think it's becoming clearer, but that has been a little bit of, maybe not as much of a fear, but just an obstacle. And so it's just something that you overcome, because life to me is pretty simple. You go for it or you don't. You're right. If you go for it, make it happen. If you don't, do something else. Right. That's pretty much it. Yep. And so it's a matter of taking on those opportunities, I think, with the right gusto, the right, it really does matter. It really does make a difference when you're on the phone, you're smiling, versus when you're on the phone and you're frowning, right? They can tell. And it also matters how you handle the conversation and really work with what they're looking to do. And that's a big part of understanding how to navigate that conversation. It takes time, right? I've been working in this profession. I know I'm relatively young compared to some others, but still been working in this place for about 8 years or so. I just started a little young, right? And what I've learned along the way is these sorts of things. Just know your stuff, know your numbers, know how to be efficient about stuff, but also effective and then efficiency. Because if you're efficient without being effective, it's kind of a house of falling cards. But once you're effective, you can always worry about the margins later. At least things are working out for you. So, it's a great place to be. So that's an obstacle that I had, and how I've overcome it is through those sorts of ideas. And there are definitely tools that work better than others I've found, but that's a discussion I think potentially for another time. But that's at least the mindset that I apply for this. Yeah.
That's awesome. I like what you're saying. You're saying that they're not fears; they're just more obstacles or challenges that I'm trying to figure out and overcome. Because sometimes fear stops people, and it's good that you kind of phrase it that way. I should probably phrase it that way too in my questions.
Semantics.
Right?
Yeah.
But I really love it. I love the fact that you said you can't have efficient without being, what was it?
Effective.
Effective.
Yeah.
Okay.
At least in my mind, it's black and white. Like in terms of what should be done, what shouldn't be done, sort of thing. Effective first, then efficient. It needs to be that way, because I'll give you a very simple example. Like for example, so I wear glasses from time to time, or let's even another example is like a water bottle. All right, we all drink water. We all probably drink water from a water bottle. Let's say, for example, chances would happen, you have a water bottle in your hand. It has a leaky bottom, right? The water's coming out. It's not an effective bottle. You try to drink it, you can drink it just fine. But the point is, the water's still leaking out the bottom of the cup. You want to make an effective bottle that holds the water first. Drinking it is a second issue. At least have the water there, right? So make an effective bottle, then maybe one later that maybe works for your margins better, or more efficient manufacturing. But make sure people can frickin' drink water out of your water bottle. Right?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I come from for effective first and then efficient. And same sort of things can be applied for services, products, and solutions, at least with what I found through various campaigns I've worked on.
That's amazing. I love that analogy. I think that analogy is so perfect. Efficient be effective, then efficient.
Effective,
figure it out,
then efficient.
Yeah. If you could help one person, then you can start to figure out how you can help 2, 3, 4, 5 people.
Absolutely.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You said you've been in the business for 8 years. I know this is kind of off topic, but how were the first couple of years of business for you?
Rough. I mean, I was still learning my craft, right? As like anyone, when you get into something new, like it takes time. Some people learn it faster than others, depending on the veracity in terms of how many hours you put into it, how long you keep it up. Like that depends. For me, I mean, marketing is especially with growth marketing. Marketing in itself can sometimes be an umbrella statement for other things like advertising and inbound marketing stuff, etc. What took me a little longer is the fact that marketing is such a wide-spanning topic, and there's so many things that that comprise it. For that reason, right? First couple of years, yeah, I mean, they're rough in terms of not understanding the broader scope. But what I did to get better at was I focused at vertical by vertical by vertical, and all of a sudden, when you have all these different verticals, they all kind of combine to create this really great mass of marketing. And so nowadays, I'm kind of able to much more comfortably go into a company. I can talk with executives pretty comfortably. And I'm talking to executives like companies of 50 to 200 to 500 people. I'm happy to go into companies. In fact, my business partner from a previous venture, he had a company about that size, solid mid-sized company. He mentored me on this stuff. He's probably one of the best mentors I've had to date. He taught me really how to build a company. And he was a prime example of one like that too. So things like that. First couple of years, I think in anything new, keep a positive mind, because there's going to be things that you're going to screw up, and that's great. Because the more you screw up, as long as you understand why it screwed up and how it can get better and the value behind working to get it better, I think you're going to put yourself in a really good position. Too many people, I think, mess up and they see their friends look at them and laugh at them, or if they have those types of friends, or other types like mess up and they think, oh man, they're just not good at it, or they're always going to be a failure. It's not true. I mean, there are always exceptions to the rule in terms of the type of craft you can do. For example, like we want to fly, I'll be honest, people cannot fly. We don't have wings for it. There's some things that you want to get good at, you just can't do it. But if you own a plane and you have the right tools for it, yeah, you can fly. You can fly in the sky, but you have a plane to do that, right? Or you have a wing glider or whatever those things are, that you go off cliffs and skydive and all that kind of stuff, right? What I'm trying to say is that when you can't do something, have the right support network around you, have the right tools. But if you keep doing it and you keep failing and you can find ways to improve that, decode it, right? Deconstruct it. Think through it before you give up on it, and find ways to master those little bits, bit by bit by bit. And then before you know it, you will be getting really good at the craft. Just keep at it. And
the main point of everybody, you cannot fly without the right tools is what I kind of got
Absolutely.
from it, right?
Great way to sum it up.
I got that
Love
part.
It, Ashton. Cool. I'm on board with that one. I think that's
to kind of to sum us up at the end of this interview, I always love to ask, so CJ, I know that with a lot of successful people, there's a portion of what I believe, which is that when you become successful, you should always give back. That'd be your time or your money. For yourself, are you giving back, or what are some organizations that have made a true impact in your life, and how can other people get involved?
Absolutely. So thanks for asking, Ashton. This is an important one, and you're right. I think once we do reach a certain level, it doesn't have to be the types of people we read about in the Financial Times or things like that. I think success is a result of giving back. I think it's an effect of doing so. And we can one organization that's close to my heart is the Alzheimer's Association. For this one, it's close to my heart because my grandma had it for about 10 years, and she eventually passed away from it. And the thing that really gets me, I think that a lot of people can relate to, is just in America, there are millions of people who have Alzheimer's disease. And for those who aren't aware of what Alzheimer's is, it's the idea where your brain function starts to degrade over time. Basically, memory elapses, you start to forget more things over time. It's a real disease, and it affects basically the neurons and the neural pathways within your mind. We have about 86 or so billion neurons in the mind, and certain clusters of them or certain networks really start to just stop working. And so, as a result of that, what we see from the outside is family members who have Alzheimer's disease, they start forgetting your name. They start forgetting past events that are significant. For example, their marriage or great vacations or family members or other things that are significant in their lives. And, what my grandma went through is, she was in her 70s, I believe late 70s when she got it. And it was something where she'd had a very successful life. She'd worked really hard to get it. A lot of great people around her who loved her. But as she progressed into this disease, people simply started disappearing from her mind because of what was happening within. And, there are millions of people outside of the United States on top of this who are dealing with this, and it's spreading. And you have one person who has it and 100 people are affected to some various degree, whether financially, time-wise, emotionally stricken. And it's rough. And, Ashton, if you have any family members who've gone through this as well, I'm sure you can relate.
Yeah. My grandmother actually died of Alzheimer's, and it was a pretty scary situation. I mean, you get situations where she doesn't know who the man is laying next to her, and she sees not people but like shadows. Like it was a point where she was seeing shadows. But there were great times where she would remember, or she would fake like she remembered. Like you would go to her and be like, "Hey, grandma," and she'd be like, "Oh, hey, who the heck's this dude kissing me?" You're like, but yeah. So it is a crazy thing, and the fact of the matter is, like you said, it affects everybody around. Like my tita Rosie was super affected by it because she had to take care of her. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. And there's so many other people affected by it. That's why I've started up a team in my area. I live in Silicon Valley. And so I have a local team that we go out every year. We go out actually with my parents as well. And we do this cause together. And we bring out some friends in the area to do it as well. That's one cause I really enjoy, because it's just after all these years of your life that you built up these memories that start to disappear. And we just really want to find a cause. I don't know if I'm eventually going to get it. Most people don't really know until later in life. And sometimes it comes out of nowhere. Sometimes you get lucky and it passes a generation. You never know. But it's, regardless if I get it or not, the bigger issue is helping other people do it, because I've seen how it gets my family, and I can only understand how much it would affect their family. And that starts to break down like a societal system to a certain degree, because these family, units start breaking down, and when that happens in the millions, right, it's a big deal. And so I'd love to find a way, hopefully through the broader organization, to find a cure at least over, the coming years, sooner than later. So that's one. Alzheimer's Association is definitely a cause I can support and stand behind.
Awesome. Now that you're talking about it, let's talk about how people can get in contact with you, get in contact with the Alzheimer's Association and your specific group that you're working with right now. So where can people find you? How can they contact you if they need your help?
Absolutely. So, and actually, if you wouldn't mind, Ashton, I'd love to start with Alzheimer's since we were on the topic. If people are in the area, I know it's going to be a smaller percentage of you, but I'll give you two options if you're interested in getting in touch. If you happen to be in Northern California, my team is called Mind Over Matter, right? It's a local chapter. There are many, there are hundreds of teams in Silicon Valley, but it's a great cause. We get thousands of people. Probably around 5,000 people come out to San Jose every year. For everyone else who's not in the area, I recommend going on Alzheimer's Association. I think it's alzheimersassociation.org, but you can look it up on Google or Yahoo or Bing or whichever search engine you use. Just Alzheimer's Association, and there are hundreds, if not thousands, of chapters all over the country. And so there's a very good chance that you can get involved in a local chapter where you live as well. So that's for Alzheimer's Association. Really great cause. Now, and I think the second question is, how can people get in touch with me for the type of work I do, if I'm not mistaken?
Oh, yeah.
All right, great. So for anyone that's looking to grow their business, which hopefully is most people, I would say I'll keep it simple. As I like to do with most things in life, I think simplicity is one of the best ways to start with any sort of engagement. I made actually my personal website goes through this in detail, both from the marketing landscape to understanding more about who the heck I am, right? Sort of thing, if you're curious about that sort of thing. Also, services I offer and results of mine, and there's also a contact page. So if you'd like to reach out to me, feel free to do that. Again, I work in growth marketing. My number one goal is thinking through at a high level and then down to the tactical level of how to grow your business, not only the revenue, but the profits. And more importantly, grow it sustainably. It's not just a profession of mine. It's a legit passion of mine. Like I freaking love this stuff. I do it like 7 days a week, whether it's a project or just research. I mean, I can't get enough of it. So like, if you want to give me a reason to even, do it more, I'd love to sit down and chat and just kind of see where you're at with things, whether you're an individual, whether you're a startup, mid-sized company, or even if it's a more specific, project within a larger enterprise. I've worked within all capacities within both the B2B, basically business to business, as well as B2C, which is business to consumer, more consumer products rather than the enterprise type of solutions. Pretty adept, pretty capable in all those areas through various mentorships I've had. So how you can find all this is one place. That's my first and last name.com. Basically CJ, T as in Tom, ERRAL.com. CJTerrel.com. And so it'll take care of everything and explain everything. It's a shareable website. If you ever have any people on your lists or network that has any questions about marketing, I educate, I share a lot of educational content on there as well. So if you ever have any questions about growth marketing, it goes through pretty much everything you need to know. As well as if you want to get in contact, then I welcome that as well. So
Awesome.
there you go.
Awesome. And for anybody who, for some odd reason, cannot get the website, I'm going to put the website in the description below and in the bio on the podcast. So don't worry about that. Thank you so much, CJ, for joining us today. You are awesome.
Thank you, Ashton. It's really great being on here today.
And for everybody watching, you guys got some major value today. And so I hope you go out there, you take action, and you make an impact. And until next time, make every minute count.